Welcome to Essential Ingredients, powered by Next Gen Purpose, hosted by me, Justine Reichman. Every Tuesday, we serve up thoughtful conversations with founders, sustainability leaders, and community organizers who share their stories and missions within the regenerative food sphere. It's all about boosting forward-thinking folks and brands working to make better for you and better for the planet food more accessible. Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today, I'm really pleased to have Kelsey Bishop, CEO and founder of Candor. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited. When we first chatted, we came up with this little series between us to do a variety of podcasts on resources for founders. So this is kicking off our podcast series for resources, founder resources. And while we're specifically in general focused on good for you foods, and we're really supporting those founders to build their businesses and access the resources. So this was such a great brainstorm you and I had that day.
Yes. Yeah, I think we came up with a good thing.
I think so. And I think that, many times we want to share the resources and we want vetted resources. So this was a great way to share some of those resources for those startups looking to build a business and don't necessarily have all those different skills. So with that, let's kick it off with you and Candor. And, let's start first to hear from you a little bit as an entrepreneur. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey getting here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started my startup journey when I was still in college. I ended up working with one of my friends in college on a user research company. I was doing sales, and it was just kind of getting my feet wet and how cool it can be to work in a startup with people that you love, right? That's what it was really about for me in that first experience. And after I graduated, I decided to move out to San Francisco and start working for a startup there as well. And after that, kind of stayed in the startup industry and had a couple different experiences. One where I absolutely loved the team and the culture and everything about working. And then I had another experience where it was almost the exact opposite, where it was tough getting up and getting excited to go to work every day because I wasn't aligned with the culture at all. I just didn't love kind of the vibes of the place. I didn't love working with those specific teammates, and it was kind of a bummer. And when I left that role, I started thinking about, how do you really get to know your teammates on a deeper level? Like, how do you really form great relationships at work? And it struck me as this gap between, looking at someone's LinkedIn profile and then meeting them on Zoom. Like, you really don't get a chance to get to know who they really are. And so I started Candor to kind of bridge that gap. And today we are a free resource for founders and teams that want to get to know each other on a deeper level. So you can sign up and make a Candor profile, which is similar to a user manual or a working with me doc, but it's meant to share kind of how can people best work with you and who are you really as a human? What do you value? What motivates you? What do you like to do on the weekends? Like all of these things that, we don't really sometimes get the chance to learn about our coworkers.
Wow, that is really inspirational. And I love that you were able to do something to fill that void for something you were missing in your most recent experience.
Totally.
Was there a moment that when we come up with these ideas, usually, I don't know, I was in a movie theater once when I came up with an idea and the scene in the movie inspired my next business. So
I love that.
So there's that, right? Like, and somehow it was a totally different thing. And if when you think about the movie and you think about how I connected it to my idea, that might not work for somebody. Like they may not come to that same realization or idea, right? So I'm curious, when you were, after the startup and you're coming up with all these things, what was that moment? Where were you? What were you doing that you realized and you figured out, I got it?
Well, when I left that company, it was a lot of kind of hashing out and trying to understand what had happened. Like, what led to spending a year of my life unhappy at work? It was a super painful experience. I also got physically ill from the experience, just being so stressed and like just not happy in the environment. And so it was a lot of like reflecting and being like, how do I avoid that situation? And I remember just getting so hung up on this. Like, it was to the point where I felt like I couldn't go get another job because I didn't know if I would join a team again where I didn't quite click with them.
Hmm.
And that was super stressful because I was, 24 in San Francisco, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And I didn't have a job and I had to pay my rent. And it was like, well, how do I get a job and make sure that I'm going to be happy there?
Hmm.
And why is this even happening? Like, it was one of those moments where it was so much frustration about my personal experience and then frustration that like this is just accepted. We just join companies that we don't love. We work on teams that aren't fun. So it wasn't, I don't think it was a particular moment, but it was almost a season of life where I was so frustrated that this was what was normal. Like, this is what was, we just had to deal with it. It was just like part of life. And I just couldn't quite get over that.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I think that that's, a lot of times when I'm speaking with other founders, it's either it comes from a problem they want to solve, something that they're truly passionate about, because after all, we spend so much time working that we should probably
Right.
enjoy it, right? And it should be a good experience.
Totally. Exactly. We spend most of our life working. I mean, I think I work as much as I sleep. I probably work more than I sleep,
Yeah, I think so,
which is
probably.
crazy.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
do, because how many hours you sleep? Even if you sleep like eight
I
or nine
sleep a lot.
hours, you're still, I
Yeah,
mean, you're up for a lot more than that. Um,
exactly.
but balance is important too, right? Of course, we try to do the balance
Yeah.
thing. So you came up with Candor. So tell us about Candor for those people listening and watching that are not familiar. Um, how did this, I mean, I know you gave us a brief synopsis, but how does this change the experience for somebody? So they fill out this whole form, but what can they expect and what can the impact be? Because it's all remote, it's all virtual many times, and it's challenging without that water cooler time. So this to me kind of provides further, deeper access into people so that when you do have those conversations and you are not in the same room, you maybe have greater insight. But I'd love to hear from you really what that impact has been, what you've seen, maybe an anecdotal story.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think when I think about work and the crux of having fun at work, enjoying your day to day, it's about relationships.
Hmm.
And so the impact of Candor is having your relationships be better with teammates, with managers, direct reports, anyone that on a day to day basis might misunderstand you or you might misunderstand them. And
Right.
kind of in a world without candor, maybe that leads to like an uncomfortable conversation or conflict, or like, worst of all, you just never address it and you like live with this kind of tension between two people. So yeah, I think, we see a lot of companies come to us when they've gone through something difficult, that generally people are uncomfortable talking about, and potentially it's hurting relationships. So a great example is we had a company come to us, who had just had two co-founders leave. There was a team of like three founders and two of the co-founders left. And it was a moment where I think there was a bit of trust fractured in doing that. And the team had to basically figure out like how are we going to rebuild the trust within our teams, and like how do we just repair these relationships in a way that doesn't feel forced, in a way that doesn't feel like super heavy, but maybe just inviting some like fun and like real connection among the teammates to remind them like, hey, we're all still in this together. Like, yeah, something like kind of sucky just happened, but actually like you're still here with a lot of great people, and like let's remember that, let's reconnect, let's just like remember that your teammate who's still on the team really cares about you and you care about them.
Right. And I think that's so important. And it's really challenging to achieve that in this day and age sometimes with people going into the office limited amounts of time. And then everybody's so focused on their work. You get into a call and you're going straight for the meat. You're
Yeah.
not taking a minute to be like, hi, how are you? Because we're trying to be so efficient with our time. But I think establishing that rapport, building that trust, um, being curious about your teammates and your workmates so that not that you have to share your deepest, darkest secrets, but so that there is some vulnerability there that people can connect with and be able to build on. And I think given we spend so much time with colleagues, they do become friends. We have work friends and we've got family
Yep.
friends and we have all these
Yep.
different sorts of friends. And I see this as a facilitator for that as well.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? Like, and they don't have to be your best friends, but I think to have that respect and understanding of each other, it does require some level of vulnerability and some level of authenticity too, right? You can't just, I think this new age of work, I don't think it's one that allows someone to show up with a work mask on and just like be their work self and then go home and be somebody else. Like, I do
Right.
think this new age of work is veering towards like, hey, just show up and be who you really are and let people kind of like see you and accept that. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I think now that we do things virtually, right? I mean, I can see the picture on your wall. You can see this. I mean, you might be like,
totally.
so what is that today? I will protect you by dancing. Now, can you tell me why that's interesting to you? These things
Yeah,
give us greater insights
right, right.
into the people that we're connected with. And I think that's not sharing something, necessarily. I mean, it's personal. I could tell you, Tim is a dancer, my partner, and I got it
Oh,
for
that's
him when I was
awesome.
at the art show. And it usually goes on another wall, but the one that was here was cracked, the frame, so I just put it here temporarily. But that
I
gives
love that.
somebody greater insight into me and my
Right.
right. So even as we share our offices at home and all these places, and coupled with candor, a place where you can share your information. People get to know you a little bit better, understand where your values are. I think it just is such a refreshing way to establish trust and connection. So tell us, a little bit about as a user, if I was going to use this with my company, we have a small startup. Maybe there's, four of us plus a podcast team. What would be the best way for us to start the process?
Yeah, so generally what we see is we'll see kind of a manager or whoever the culture champion is internally, they'll sign up and they'll make a Candor profile. And you could add things like a picture of your work setup or your happy place and potentially a picture of you and your partner or like what you guys like to do on the weekend, whatever it is. You make that profile, it's very you, and you share it with your teammates and invite them to make one too, right? So you all then kind of have Candor profiles, you share them, you engage with each other. We recently launched this concept, this feature called a team space. And a team space is a way for your entire team to kind of be on one profile together. So you have a team directory of everyone's Candor profiles, and then you also have a profile that everyone can contribute to. So for candidates that are thinking of joining your team, they can see, okay, this is how the team works all together. These are their, recent wins. These are their favorite memories, things like that. So
That's
yeah,
a
I would say
great
that's kind of like
resource
the
for
big
that.
thing.
That's really
Yeah,
great. I mean, as we interview other people to come on the team, whether it's me or whomever, and you want to share with them, and oftentimes time is limited and getting everyone on a call can be challenging. This is a
totally.
great way to share a little bit about the culture and the people you'll be working with that's very open.
Exactly. And it's not just an HR approved way of doing it either. I think that's a mistake that a lot of companies make is like, well, one person is in charge of making the about us page or our careers page. And it's not like a true representation of the whole team. And the cool thing about the Candor team space is that everybody can contribute to it. It's like truly co-created. So it feels a little bit more bottoms up versus tops down.
Okay, I love that. So, what would you say to somebody that wants to join, but maybe wasn't sure if it was a right fit for them? Is there a right fit, or is it something for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of our users tend to be either remote or hybrid. We have some in-person teams that just want to get to know each other. Maybe they have teammates that are a little shy, or they have a lot of different types of roles that maybe don't see eye to eye or are really different. That tends to be kind of like who Candor resonates with. But I would say, I mean, we don't really have a specific industry. We recently had a construction company sign up, and they were basically like, well, we have architects on one side of the house, and we have, construction consultants on the other side, and they don't want to talk to each other, and we don't know how to, like, just forge relationships. And then, of course, we have like the classic tech company that has 400 employees and a head of engineering signs up.
Mm-hmm.
So it really runs the gamut. I won't say it's for everyone because I've also chatted with, I think some folks that aren't into the whole like authenticity at work yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think this is like definitely a new age at work, and I think it's the future of work. But with time, it takes adoption, right?
Right.
It takes time. So yeah, I think it's for people who care about culture and being real at work.
So I'm curious when people come and they may be saying, there's just a few of us, but, we're all over the place. Is it still a good resource?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're a small team, right? We're a team of nine, but we've been using Candor since, day one when I was a team of one. And I think it's so helpful, especially for onboarding new employees, right? You're a small team. It doesn't matter if you're 4 people or 400 people. You still need to have great relationships with your employees and with your teammates, especially early on, right? Especially when you're a small team, it's even more important to have everyone bought in.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a few reasons or a few ways to use Candor for these companies. So if you were going to say, if you could choose your top 5 reasons or top 3 reasons as to how this could help companies, small or large, support their team, what would that be?
Improve your company culture, manage your people better, know who they really are, form the right relationships. And I would say make your workplace a place that everybody is happy at. I think that's one that goes unsaid a lot. It's really important, and it's hard to know if everyone's happy at work. But I think when they're happy in their relationship with their teammates, it's more likely that they're happy in their jobs.
I like that. It's really, I have not seen many products like this out there. In fact, I don't think I've seen any. Within this space, are there other ones that you compare to that you see that are trying to pop up because this is new, um, just to compare against and why and how yours is
Yeah,
different?
yeah. So there are a lot of culture building tools out there. But I think the difference is a lot of the products in the market, whether it be Culture Amp or Lattice or 15.5, those are a couple of the big ones. They're much more top down driven. So it's leadership saying, hey, we all have to do performance reviews, or everyone needs to tell us if they're happy at work. And it's not very fun, right? It's kind of the old way of doing things,
Mhm.
forcing your people to do all of these different parts of these products. And I like to think that Candor feels a little bit more fun and a bit more lightweight, right? Like it's actually fun to talk about yourself and to share these different things that make you unique. And I also think it's not one size fits all. That's the cool part. You choose what ends up on your Candor profile. You choose what ends up on your team space. It is just kind of like customizable in a way that's a little bit more fit for like a unique human versus a one size fits all feedback process.
Yeah, I think that's great because, no two people are alike either. No two companies are alike, and we need to be able to be malleable and agile to adjust for these discrepancies, or not discrepancies, but differences between people and companies and what they're comfortable sharing and how it supports their culture, right?
Yeah,
Because everybody's
totally.
culture is a little different. I might fill out a profile in one way and highlight certain things because that's what's important to me. So I really appreciate that flexibility that you have built into Candor.
Yeah, totally.
So if folks wanted to try Candor, how could they do that and how would they start?
Yeah, so our website is joincandor.com, joincandor.com. And you can sign up for a free profile and get started. So, yeah, super easy. Just go to the website and sign up.
Awesome. That sounds super easy. And for for me who's curious about, your next steps and how you're going to be growing, what do you have on the horizon for you?
Yeah, so right now we've got these profiles that are really beautiful and they're shareable and they kind of show who you are as a unique human. And right now we're working on like, are there ways where Candor could help teams grow together? Could we help teams actually strengthen their culture? So we're just launching this set of features now that are meant to be culture exercises, ones that are still lightweight, ones that are fun, but they center around giving each other shout outs, for example. We just launched that last week. And the way that
Congratulations.
works is thanks. Yeah, the way that those work is, we ping everyone once a week and say, hey, who gets a shout out for living one of your company values?
Oh,
Great,
that's great.
easy, feel good, fun. So we're launching a few other exercises kind of in that realm.
Awesome. So this is how people can get involved. They can go to Join Candor. This is what's next and what's new is all these new little ways to shout out and support your colleagues. So I
Yep,
hope to see some
exactly.
of our community join Candor,
Awesome.
so that
Thank
they
you so
can
much.
their culture and get more connected. And I appreciate you helping me spearhead this resource center for founders, the Founder Resource Center.
Totally.
So
Yeah, happy
great
to.
project. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for digging in. To learn more about these stories, you can access the show notes at nextgenpurpose.com/podcast. If you like what you just heard, head to Apple Podcasts or wherever you do your listening to hit subscribe and leave us a review. To join the conversation, follow us on Instagram at essential.ingredients and check out our weekly newsletter for your dose of food industry info. Visit the Next Gen Purpose YouTube channel for videocasts of each episode and give this episode a like while you're there. You can also connect with me directly at justine.reichman on Instagram and The Real Justine Reichman on TikTok. See you next week.